Let's continue trade talk here for just a moment. We just discussed James Bouknight being the piece that would go out in a trade for Miles Turner. But you mentioned PJ Washington, Doug, and this is somebody you mentioned not even just being any commodity, is a hot commodity now for the way that he's been helping the Charlotte Hornets. We've always talked about the numbers being very good. He's pretty visibly their most important player at that spot. He's just a phenomenal small ball center and unlocks a lot of things for the Charlotte Hornets team that not only the Hornets don't have when he's not on the floor, but even other NBA teams, protecting the rim, shooting 40% from three, really special in that regard. So if you had PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee as the package going out in exchange for Miles Turner, not even necessarily would you do that deal, but would you rather get rid of P.J. Washington and Plumlee or James Bouknight and Plumlee?
It's difficult because I think, a lot of the reason that P.J. Washington has been so valuable to the Charlotte Hornets is precisely because they don't have someone like Miles Turner. Although I was looking at some numbers today, and the sort of write-up on P.J. Washington for a couple of years was how would he mesh with Miles Bridges, and there was a particular season where like Miles was awful with PJ while playing with PJ. But I was looking at some stuff on PBPstats.com today, and Miles Bridges, his 3-point percentage, his effective field goal percentage, so much of Miles's offensive game is significantly better when PJ is on the floor. And PJ has been part of these lineups in the second quarter and the third quarter with bench and starters mixed in together that have really helped the Charlotte Hornets gather and maintain leads and give them opportunities to win games in the fourth quarter. So it's not necessarily winning time, it's the setup to the winning time. PJ Washington has been a big part of that. So it's difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult, but I think I honestly, as much as I love PJ, I think we know what we know about PJ, and he's been so great because you don't have Miles. So I would rather keep Bouknight because I think Bouknight, looking out into the future, has the potential to be much greater at his position that PJ is at his position right now. So I think, I'd love to keep the future asset that we don't know about and move the guy who has been great precisely because we don't have the piece that we're looking for.
Well, and part of this becomes, what do you plan to do with Cody Martin? Because Terry Rozier is on this team for a while, making big time money. LaMelo's going to get everything and more that he asked for so they can continue to have him be a Charlotte Hornet. Cody Martin is somebody that also plays in that backcourt and has become a pretty impressive rotation player for this NBA team. Jalen McDaniels, that's kind of something that you want to put in the mix. Maybe Jalen McDaniels allows you to feel better about sending PJ Washington out, even though he's not going to be the small ball center. Like, he doesn't do the same things, but he's still a tall defender that can knock down threes. Can Jalen McDaniels be the guy that allows you to feel a little bit easier about getting rid of PJ? And can Cody Martin be the guy that allows you to feel a little bit easier about getting rid of James Bouknight? Even though clearly they have different skill sets, it's just how much do you want each of those younger players, those second-round picks, to be a part of the future? I just hate getting rid of PJ, somebody that unlocks this small ball thing that helps you so much, even in playoff situations. Like, you could go into a series and PJ is just going to be camping out there in the corner at the top of the key because he's so good shooting right at that center spot, right at the top of the key. And it's like, what does the center do in that situation? Let's say you go against Philadelphia and you still have PJ and Miles. So Miles can give you all the Joel Embiid minutes and try to limit him as much as possible, even though we see him get bodied from bigger, stronger centers every now and then. But then, like, each of those guys can help out in way different ways. They unlock some crazy versatility, and that's why it's tough for me. PJ also contractually, like, how much do you want to allocate to him? That has to be a part of the conversation. I think Bouknight would be the answer. I'd rather get rid of Bouknight because I'm very much seeing playoff scenario now. But I'm not saying it's an easy decision. It's really
but I'm seeing playoff scenario now, but this season, I don't think that a Miles Turner deal that keeps PJ Washington means that the Charlotte Hornets are going to legitimately contend in the Eastern Conference. There are just 4 or 5 teams that I think talent-wise and roster construction-wise, even if the Hornets pull off a trade for Miles Turner and keep PJ, I think those rosters are still better than the Charlotte Hornets in a playoff scenario. I think that the acquisition of Miles Turner would be setting up or you would hope would set up another acquisition next season or the season after that could then vault you, along with LaMelo Ball's development, vault you into Eastern Conference contention.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Mitch Kupchak finally pulls the move on an in-season trade that is significant. I always say that he hasn't done it yet, and I always forget it's Brad Wanamaker. I think was it cash that they got rid of in order to get Brad? I forget what it was.
It wasn't I don't think a player was involved.
Well, and here's the other thing about all of this too, Doug. It's the fact that LaMelo Ball can unlock the very best of players in their true self with the Charlotte Hornets, because he is so very good at facilitating. We know that he is a potential superstar, but they were having this conversation on NBA Today after that Milwaukee game. Kendrick Perkins, Richard Jefferson, Malika Andrews. The question was posed to Perk first: is LaMelo Ball already a superstar? And Kendrick said, yeah, he's already here. He said, welcome to the party. And more so his reason for saying that, not necessarily for his play on the court. It wasn't the fact that he is statistically, or even just watching him play, one of the 5, one of the 10 best players in the game to announce him as a superstar in this league. But it's more so kind of the popularity, and he's the guy that kids beg their parents to go see when he's in town. And then even kind of using this as an example, where the Spectrum Center was rocking the other night, and he said it wasn't because Giannis was in town. It's like that in Charlotte every night because LaMelo is a player there. I don't know if it's like that every night, but we know that the attendance is very much so more improved because this team is fun, they're winning, and LaMelo at least is showtime. I mean, that guy is so much fun to watch, and I think national NBA pundits have recognized that to the point where fans have recognized that. What say you in that whole question of if LaMelo Ball is a superstar or not?
Yeah, I think LaMelo Ball has every tangible and intangible ingredient to become a superstar. And I think what we are witnessing in real time is him mixing those ingredients in the bowl, and he's getting ready to put it in the oven late in this season and in the playoffs. I'm anticipating that occurring. And it started in that game against Milwaukee when he hits that incredible, instead of passing, he gets the ball passed to him from Terry Rozier, one of the best scorers on this team, says, here, kid, it's your turn, go. And he did, and he delivered. So to me, we're witnessing that in real time. But I would disagree that with Kendrick in that it's now. I'm just laughing at the idea of me disagreeing with Kendrick Perkins.
I mean, dude, honestly, the whole Perk thing, I know he's ridiculous, and yet I still love it.
It's great.
He really is phenomenal.
He's just entertaining. He's entertaining.
He totally is.
Okay, so I disagree with him because I think I would agree with him if I had seen in those first round All-Star returns, if LaMelo Ball were 1 or 2 in the East, I would say, wow, there's an overwhelming fan response to LaMelo Ball in the same way that we saw with like Kyrie Irving. I wonder if LaMelo Ball does go to like a premier college instead of going overseas, and has a year with a Kentucky or a Duke or a UNC or whatever. Maybe we do see that, but his choice was to go overseas, and he ends up 3rd in the draft. And but now he's showing everyone, hey, here's what you would have seen. And so I just think we're just a couple of years behind that. But like I said, he has every ingredient. We're just waiting on him to cook.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's even in that conversation is what allows Charlotte fans to be to the moon excited. Right. It makes sense to me, though, and it reminds me of a conversation that Bill Simmons had on the Book of Basketball podcast when they did this profile on Allen Iverson, and they were discussing where he ranks in the pantheon of great basketball players and advanced stats as they've come along. They've kind of been Allen Iverson has been probably the biggest casualty to advanced stats when we go back and measure a player's career because just wasn't a very efficient basketball player. Does get to the NBA Finals that one time, wins game 1, and that would be it against the Lakers. And that'd be the most team success that he ever experienced. And I'm not saying that should have that effect on Allen. I'm just telling you it kind of has when you measure it through the advanced stats column. But what Bill was saying was like, man, here I am. I cover the league. I I watch every game imaginable. I'm trying to do everything I can. I love the game. And when guys
Humble brag.
well, we know Bill Simmons, and that's certainly something Bill would do. But to his point, he was saying there are a few guys that you circled. There were a couple that I wanted to see play basketball more than any other player in the league. And Allen Iverson, boom, big old circle. Don't care at what point in his prime he was playing ball. I wanted to see him over a lot of other really good players. Do you think LaMelo has that kind of effect right now? Because I'm sure it does with a decent amount of NBA fans.
Yes, but I think it's a question of degree. There's no question in my mind that there are fans across the country that go to games to see LaMelo Ball play. But I don't think that LaMelo is that same kind of draw yet. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. Here's the other thing too. I think we should allow LaMelo Ball to write the story. I don't love like the media, national or otherwise, developing the narrative before LaMelo Ball has had a chance to show it on the court. I have all the confidence in the world, and I had it before that shot against Milwaukee, that he is going to write that narrative. But let's let him do that. Let's let him win the games. Let's let him hit the shots. Let's let him make those incredible passes that lead to game-winning shots. Let's let all that occur and then say, yes, he is a superstar.
Yeah, well, the reason the conversation was there because of the shot, and maybe we'll see more. So I'm with you, though.
Right.
I wouldn't call him that. I wouldn't call him that yet. It's not there. I mean, even if you wanted to say it's a year and a half worth of time, it's even less than that, considering COVID, considering him actually missing the 10 games or whatever that he did, or even more than that, with his fractured wrist last year. So we'll see where LaMelo is heading, but we all know it seems to be somewhere pretty special.
To the moon!
Speaking of pretty special, let's talk about Built Bar, because Built Bar is something that tastes kind of like a candy bar, covered in 100% chocolate, but it's an energy bar that's healthy for you too. It's high in protein, it's high in fiber, but it's low in calories, and it's low in sugar, and you have so many different flavors to choose from, whether it's a staple, just like your simple salted caramel, or if it's your double chocolate because you're a fiend and you can't get enough, whether you actually kind of like a little fruit with your chocolate, raspberry, strawberry. So many different flavors. When you go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Also want to talk about Bet Online. They'd like to wish you a happy new betting year as they continue the march to the playoffs and beyond. Bet Online remains your number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. And it's a new year, so they have a new updated desktop and mobile website. To sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit, just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. Bet Online, the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. We've got one more segment to go. We'll see if the Hornets can break the Philly curse. We'll talk about it next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.